Welcome, adventurers. It's Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time, 5 p.m. on the West Coast, and we are live. That's because Bill's on the West Coast. I didn't even ask Charles where he's at, but I'll ask in a minute here after I introduce him. I'm your guide, Sean McZoo, and this is the Reptile Show reporter. As always, Bill Strand, the headmaster of the Chameleon Academy, is my co-host. Tonight, we discussed the Canadian Reptile Breeders Expo, if I could say it, with special guest Charles from the Critter Box. Charles, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, I'm Charles from the Critter Box, as Sean mentioned, and I am a photographer, and I mostly photograph exotic animals ranging from birds to fish to reptiles and invertebrates.
Great. All right. We'll have to play the video, and we'll do a little dancing here. All right, that video's over. We got to go to the chat and see who's here. Wow. We always go through the chat when we announce that people are here. James Cross was very early and somewhat cross with me about what I had to say about him 2 weeks ago. So there you go.
Wow.
I commented on how his I wasn't sure that his drain was going to work in the wood, but he proved it would work. But I really thought it wasn't a matter of would it work in a year is what I was thinking, or 6 years. But there he is, the DIY chameleon guys, one with Bill. All right, who else is here? I've seen Eliza Ann, she's here. Let's see, we'll just get Eliza Ann here real quick. Today we're only going to show people who showed up before this happens. We're not going to show everybody no matter what, because we have a guest today.
That's right. We got to be polite.
And Stephanie Payne, Two Turtle Tom. Okay, let's see here. I got to go through, get the right one too, the right Stephanie. We have two Stephanie Paynes. Stephanie P, Two Turtle Tom. There's Tom and his daughter Paige. Seems like she's gotten much older from the, but they grow so fast. And who else is here? Let's see. Mikey Ben. I'm going to do a new one of Mikey Ben because he sent me one from the Expo. So let's see who
Nice.
I can find one of him from the Expo. There he is. Who is he with there?
That's Richard Stewart from the Tarantula Collective.
All right, Richard Stewart from the Tarantula Collective. So he was at the Expo as well.
Yes,
okay,
he was.
And who else? Let's see.
You want to go for quality videography? That's Richard Stewart.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, the guy's good.
Nate is here, my fellow Ohioan. Let's see where he's at. He just got a cool chameleon, I noticed.
He did.
Yes.
I got the T on that one, and on Saturday I'm going to be giving a little slideshow about it.
All right.
Nice.
Let's see. Eliza and Mikey Man, James Cross, me. I won't show me because I'm here. Two Turtle Tom. All right. Stephanie Payne. That is our Stephanie Payne, right? Not the other Stephanie. I mean, which one is that? That's the other Stephanie Payne, right?
Well, Kiki
not the one I
is the
showed.
one from New Jersey, and the one that says Stephanie is the one from Utah, and the one that says Kiki is the one from New Jersey.
All right, so I have to put actually Stephanie Payne. Yes, this one here. This is the one that we have on here.
That's the
right?
Stephanie.
That's the Stephanie, not the Kiki Payne. All right, so I haven't even seen her yet. I already gave her. Oh no, she's there, and I gave her credit. So there we go. I hope she saw it. All right. Okay, so that's enough of these. I'm not going to be giving any more credit to anybody today.
No more credit.
All right. So, Charles, why don't you tell us about this? We know at first we have to do announcements. I forgot. Bill, any announcements?
The only announcement I've got is that next week, we always have a weekly topic for the Chameleon Academy, and the Chameleon Academy week starts on Thursday because why not? And the newsletter topic this next week, starting tomorrow, is fighting parasites with your husbandry. So how can you break the parasite life cycle at the 3 critical junctions, even if you don't know that you've got parasites? That's what we're doing next week.
All right. Well, Chris Green is here, but we're not going to. Whoops, I did the wrong one. Wow, there's a whole bunch of things that happened in the middle there. But there we go. Steph Green's reptile, but I'm not going to show his picture because I said I wasn't going to anymore. So, okay. So that's great. Um, Charles, you have any announcements or anything you want to chat with everybody about? I mean, tell everybody about what's going on with you right now.
Yeah, well, right now I'm starting to do much more photography content. I've
Okay.
recently found a passion for photography and especially event photography, and I kind of
Mhm.
mix that with my passion for exotic animals. And my goal is basically to make the exotic animal community as a whole better, one picture at a time. You can find me on Instagram at the Critter Box.
Okay, awesome. Yes, I did. I actually liked you in a couple of my I have like 4 or 5 Instagram things. Sean McNeely, Sean McZoo, the
Yep.
Reptile Show reporter, and McZoo Exotics. I don't know which two I put it on, but I should find you on the other two and follow you there. Okay. Let's see. Micro squirrels. They're
Yeah,
no
let's hear about
more.
the micro.
They're I have micro squirrels my wife and I got many about less than a year ago, and they've been multiplying like rabbits, and we just can't seem to get rid of them. And they're like come to a point where my wife, who loved them, is kind of like, I don't want these anymore in my house. So we'll see what happens there. um but there are no more, but there are no less. So there we go. Podcast number 25 is live on YouTube and Spotify, Apple Podcast, and what have you. This one is about Two Turtle Tom, and I've got another one coming up. I'm not going to announce it until I actually do it next Tuesday, but next month's podcast will be also about turtles and what have you, I think. I know who's doing it, but I'm sure Tom would understand who I'm talking about because he set me up with the guy. All right.
Whoa, what? This is. I just looked up the Critter Box on Instagram. This is incredible photography.
Well, thank you.
Holy,
The
I appreciate
pictures
that.
are really awesome and very high res. I had to actually reduce the resolution of 2 of them to even get them on here today. So as we go through them, just know that I had to reduce resolution, but that's not going to make a difference the way they look here.
yeah.
But all right. So what is we always talk about the different reptile shows, like here in Ohio and Cleveland, where I live, and Bill in California, and I go all mostly across the country. I've been to Tinley, and I've been as
Yep.
far as Pennsylvania and what have you. But most of the shows here, there's free parking. There's they're minimally priced between $5 and $10, and they're monthly.
Yep.
The booths are 4x8, but you can get multiple booths. You have like between 25 and 100 vendors, depending on Tinley's twice a year.
Yep.
Some of these other, the Pittsburgh Mega Show, which was last weekend or the weekend before, is just twice a year. But some of these other things. But so tell us about the Canadian Reptile Breeders Expo. How frequent? How big? How much?
So the Canadian Reptile Breeders Expo, as you know, the CRBE is once a year, and it's usually in the beginning of fall, so in September. But then there are it's the same company that hosts them, the Toronto Reptile Expos, which are a little bit smaller, but they're still lots of fun. And those are every 2 to 3 months or so.
Okay. So are these all
And
in Toronto area? I didn't even know where the Canadian one was.
yeah, so the CRBE is in Mississauga at the International Center.
Okay.
And the Toronto Reptile Expo is in the same hall. So the International Center as well in Mississauga, which is maybe 10-15 minutes outside of Toronto. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the parking like? Is there charge for parking? Is it free?
No, so the parking is completely free on both days of the CRBE, and
Okay.
the Toronto Reptile Expo parking is free as well.
Okay. And what's the cost for these approximately?
So to get in, right now for the CRBE, tickets were $20. If you got the early bird prices, if you showed up on the day of the event, it was $25 per ticket.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And here we are in the chat. Bill is busy. Oh, did we lose him? We lost him. Bill is busy talking about Sears and J.C. Penney's, which I
James
remember
brought up Sears and
vividly.
J.C. Penney. I'm just noting that there's about 5 people left in the world who remember those.
Well, my wife and I are too. There we go. Here he's back. All right, Chris, welcome back. Or Charles.
Hello.
I called you Chris there. I didn't even get your right name. Welcome back. What happened? You get lost or?
I pressed a key on my keyboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
It's
we
the
talked about the
destruct
price.
key.
We talked about the now.
Why
so
do we
is there
have that lever?
a VIP pass where you can get in early or stay longer or something? Or
Yes. So for the CRBE, there was and there usually is a VIP pass, and you can get in at 9 instead of 10. And there's also some booths who had deals going on, like the Jungle Vault, which is Mike Taitula. He had deals going on for the VIP hour, and things like that. So yes, there were VIP tickets.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Charles,
Yes.
do you know what a Sears is?
I'm sorry?
Do you know what a Sears or a J.C. Penney's is?
No, I don't think I do.
He's from Canada, Bill. What the heck?
Well, they don't have
Why
those
are
in
you asking
Canada.
about American stores?
They don't even have them in the U.S. anymore. All right. Anyway, I'm just being disruptive.
All right. I know. Very disruptive. All right. So how many vendors are at the CRBE approximately?
Approximately, I would say, I mean, tables, it can range. Each vendor can have as many tables, as they'd like. Of course, they have to pay for more tables. Honestly, I haven't looked at the numbers, but walking around, I'd say around 75 to 100, and that's Toronto, Reptile, and Plant. So both together,
Okay.
75 to 100, I would say.
Okay. I saw fish in there, and what are there birds? And so it's not just reptiles, it's reptiles. I mean, we have a wide definition for reptile shows. They're usually the furry things, and some mammals, some amphibians. But when you get into fins and feathers, that's kind of outside the normal reptile show here in the United States.
Well, here reptiles is everything that isn't dogs, cats, birds, or fish.
Yeah.
Everything else is reptile.
Right.
So the way that works is the CRBE is kind of conjoined with the Canadian Pet Expo, the Canadian Aquatic Expo, and there's within the Pet Expo, there is a feathered section. So Exotic Wings is there as a vendor, and there's responsible parrot keeping that is there as well. So to educate people about parrots. And in the aquatic section, we usually have a couple of aquatic vendors as well, from saltwater, freshwater, to be there as well. And that's all in the same venue, just in different halls.
So the big one is once a year in the fall. The other ones are maybe three times a year, scattered between the others, or so they're almost quarterly. Just a one big one and 2-3 small ones, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And do they have reptile stuff or just reptiles?
There are vendors that do sell, like Reptiles R Us. They have animals there. They also have a dry goods section. Same thing goes for Port Credit Pets. So there are reptile vendors there that only sell the reptiles. There are also reptile vendors who sell the dry products for the reptiles. So you can find anything there. There's also feeders, bioactive stuff. So the bioactive substrates, isopods, springtails, anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's very cool. So so then there's I got sidetracked reading the chat, which is flying 100 miles an hour. But so there's bugs, there's frozen rats and mice and all that kind of stuff there.
Yep.
Great. Okay. So did you buy anything
at the expo? Yes, I did.
Do you mind telling us, or is it secret?
I can tell you guys. I bought. Actually, I didn't buy anything at the expo, but I bought something the day after. And that's like live animals. But I did buy a beautiful frog, a pinned frog from Sleepy Scorpion, which is one of my good friends, Dee. She sells pinned insects, invertebrates, sometimes reptile skeletons. and oddities and stuff, and I really like her booth. And I
Mhm.
bought a pinned frog, which I really like. I have one of her pieces here. I can show you if you'd like.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Let me just grab
So
that
it's
really
great
quick.
you don't have to feed these,
No, yeah, exactly. And they
which is
look just
what
as
I've got
cool.
myself into trouble having too many of them.
So this is one that I bought last time I was at an expo, and this is one of her bigger pieces.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So
hate to
they're
come
really,
in
really, really,
contact
really
with
cool.
that with a dark room.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the kind of stuff that she does. And it's really cool to see. And being an invert person, I always got something from her booth every time. There's
Mhm.
always something that I find that I like. Um, and the day after the expo, I did get animals from a vendor that was at the CRBE Tails and Scales,
Mhm.
which is Nelson, also a good friend of mine. And I got a Schneider skink
Mhm.
and 2 binos geckos.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you
Wow, cool.
mind filling this in on what else you might have, or is that the secret?
So you mean my collection?
Sure.
So I keep, a wide variety of like snakes and lizards. I do have your typical leopard gecko, crested gecko, bearded dragon. But I also keep things like, the Schneider skink that is new.
Mhm.
I have emerald tree skinks, binos geckos. I have stenodactylus, which is Daffy's reptiles that got me into those. Also a really good friend of mine. So I really like. I'd have to walk you through each like section of my collection because I do keep a lot of animals, but I like
Well,
variety.
why don't we keep that a secret for now, and then maybe later we can do a podcast
Sure,
at
yeah,
length
I'd love
and
to.
go through all
We
those
could
things rather
save
than
material for Sean to do a podcast.
doing
Yeah,
that. Right. Exactly.
Well, we could. Eliza Ann had a good picture, good question at 8:13 your time. We can bring that up. She was asking what started you in photography, and that's something that he said was relatively new. So yeah, that's a good question. What
that
just all
is
of
a
a
good
sudden sparked?
a good question. Um, I feel like it's in my blood. My dad was a photographer and videographer for news channels here before I was born. And as a kid, he too would be like into photography, and he got college degree in photography. And his passion kind of always rubbed off on me, just because I was always around cameras and things like that. And a couple of years back, I went to my first expo and he was like, "Hey, let's film a YouTube video if you want, and we can post it." And I was like, "That's such a good idea. I've been wanting to do YouTube for so long." And that video is still up on my YouTube channel, by the way. And he brought this huge gimbal with like lavalier mics and everything, and I had my questions ready for special people that I wanted to meet. And from there I was just like, yeah, I this is what I want to do, like as a hobby. And so I got my own camera shortly after that and started taking pictures at my local reptile store, which is Monarch Reptiles, and a bunch of other stores that are around me, like Exotic Addicts and Bubblegums Reptiles and things like that in Quebec. And I really just started taking more and more pictures and more photos, and that's really how it started. Yeah.
Wow. So what kind of camera do you have now?
So my personal camera, which is actually right here, is a Sony ZV-E10.
Mhm.
Nice.
That's what I use for mostly vlogging and things like that. And I do have like a small rig on it with a monitor so that I can record, expo stuff, especially with like table sweeps,
Mhm.
and it makes it more stable. And for photography, I also do a little bit of concert photography. And so I have 2 Sony A7 R5s, and with like a 70-200 and a 24-70. So I really have the whole range of focal length, and I really like that. And that's also what I brought to the expo. as well.
Wow, you had a whole carry bag, huh?
Yep.
Okay. So why don't you tell us about these pictures? I'll show them for you here that
Mm-hmm.
you sent over.
Well, wait a minute. First, you asked about the cameras. You got to ask about the mic. He has a dude of a setup there.
Yeah. Well, I'm starting to do more podcast episodes, and I'm debating whether or not I keep the podcast going because it's something I really love doing, but it takes a lot of time. But I'm just rallying up Canadian guests right now.
Bill's a long-term podcaster. You're breaking his heart. He got me into podcasts, so I've only done 25 so far. But
well, we got to work on our terms. What by podcast? You mean you're on your YouTube channel, or do you actually have an RSS feed?
No. So I have YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
now, is that when you record it and then you edit it, or you just do it straight? Okay.
So
you do
I
edit it.
record like an entire episode and I rewatch it to make sure there aren't any, bits and bobs that
Sure.
could be removed or bloopers and such, and then I post them.
Sounds a lot more like a podcast, Bill, on YouTube, but you
no,
don't have
it's
an
video.
RSS feed. You don't
No, I
put it
don't.
on other places.
No,
Okay.
not yet.
All right, so we'll have to talk to you about you to get into that one too.
Well,
Bill's got mic envy because he's always talking about whatever mic's on there. But
I enjoy people who enjoy good audio. I
There
think
we
that's
go.
a sign of civilization.
Toilets, trash removal, and high quality microphones.
Yep.
All right, there we go.
It's a dignified situation. So when somebody
That's a
is
a
good
first
audio
world problem.
quality, you know that they care about themselves. They
Yeah.
probably shower every day and have good personal hygiene.
Okay, all right. What's this?
So that is my Chihuahua gecko.
Mhm.
I also do macro photography on reptile eyes. So this is my Chihuahua gecko. His name's Munchkin, and I actually got him from Adam from Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles, which Bill,
Mhm.
I'm sure you know.
Yep.
I know of the man.
Yes,
And,
Bill actually went to Madagascar with him, didn't you?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I do macro photography as well, and that was one of my favorite pictures I've done here.
Okay. What's this here?
So this is kind of what I like doing at expos, is walking around with the biggest focal length that I can and stand as far as I can from booths so that people don't see me. And that's not because of, a whole consent thing, because I don't show whole faces. It's more of when people see a camera, they have a tendency to just stand back and let me take a picture. But what I want to capture is the moment, the moment of discovery. Like, hey, look, mom, a snake. Or, oh, look at this, coral reef tank. And this was one that was at the Aquatic Expo. And I think this was this man's, maybe not the first time seeing an aquatic tank, but he was really enjoying it. And it turned out to be a great picture as well.
Great. Yeah, it looks awesome. I see. I remember the blue tinge from all these things. I had
Yeah.
corals at one point in time along the way.
Nice.
Let's see. What is this?
So this is kind of what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
This is at Monarch Reptiles booth because they're usually at the expos a lot. And this was a little girl that was pointing to her mom like a beauty snake, I think that is. And because those are like really, I wouldn't say intimidating, but they're beautiful. And she was pointing it out. And as I was, talking with Yan behind the booth, and I was like, oh, hold on. And then I, stood back and took a picture of that. And I really, really like, this is one of my favorite shots I think I've taken at an expo.
All right, I'm just looking at the chat to see if we catch up. Someone's asking, what is macro photography? I think you kind of explained it, but could you go over it again?
Yeah, so macro photography, basically is just really magnified objects. So if you look up macro insect photography on Instagram, you have these really zoomed in images that are usually high quality of small things like flies or things like that. And that's like my version of it. There's also, macro photography I've seen people do it with food and try and guess the food from the macro photography or videography. So it's really just zoomed in, high quality pictures.
Great. Okay. And let's see what's next on the list here. There's a
Yes. So this was again Monarch Reptiles booth. These pictures were like a couple of seconds from each other. This person was looking for jumping spiders and had just spotted some, and she was looking at the little babies that they had available, and she was really freaking out. So that's also, that kind of moment that I like to capture.
Yeah, I actually got convinced to get one done in Cincinnati or Expo a couple weeks ago, and it's
Nice.
molted twice. But I'm always afraid. I got it in a bigger container, and I'm always afraid to let it out.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna not be because we have so many big spiders in here in
Mm-hmm.
Ohio at this time of year that I wouldn't even know who he is, but or she
Yeah.
is. I guess it's a she.
But
But
they're really amazing pets.
I, the lady who had him was catted on her hand and was pitted on all the different. I'm just never been that brave. I'm just afraid of it running away because there's so much stuff here.
Yeah.
But all right, let's see. Okay, all right, I'm just looking at the chat to see what's going on there, and there we go, bearded dragon.
Yes. So this is actually, if you go on Instagram right now, this picture was posted a couple of maybe 2 hours ago, I think. This is
Okay,
Percy. So I don't know if you've seen on Instagram. This is the bearded dragon who has a relationship with his sock. So every now and then he gets out of his enclosure and humps a sock, and he got famous by doing that, and he's really a lovely guy, and I offered a photo shoot and it turned out great.
this is
You
another
know,
photo of this guy, or is that
Yep, same.
okay?
when I sit around saying, how can I get more views? It's like this guy figured it out.
Yep.
All right, let's see this. What is this one here? That's a
This,
fish.
yes.
That's a lionfish there.
So
Why is it
this
blue?
is just lighting. I
Lighting.
haven't fixed up this picture, but this was after the expo. I went to the Ripley's Aquarium that I haven't been to in maybe 3 years. Last time I was there was at my first expo with my dad. And I was like, hey, I'll take a camera with me. And I went with Fadi from Daffy's Reptiles before the expo after my flight. Um, it was just in the moment. I took a picture of a lionfish and I was really proud of it. So I thought I'd send it in.
So you're not from Toronto. You have to fly in?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Who is this there?
So this is Jesse DeLuca. He is the, I would say he's, the guy for Exoterra in Canada. He's also a good friend of mine's, and we're actually working on a collaboration right now. And what he's doing here was a contest. So at the CRBE, there was a section in the middle, which was a Terrascape off. So the Northern Terrascape Showdown that was sponsored by Exoterra, and Dion from Reptiliatus was the host. And I think 8 Terrascapers got to go head to head and build tanks using Exoterra products. And he was the judge for those. There was a set of rules, and people had to follow those rules and create beautiful tanks, which they succeeded. All the tanks had their own kind of artistic touch, and it was beautiful.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's this?
This is Fadi. This is one of my best friends from the expo. He's like a big brother to me, and he was actually hosting an aquascape showdown between Joey Mullen and Chris Biggs, the Mad Aquarist. They went head to head. I think it was last year, and Joey and Chris went head to head, and now they wanted to do it again. No one had any clue that it was happening. Joey just kind of pulled a drape, and there were enclosures, tanks ready, and it was an aquascape, and everyone was super surprised. And then Fadi stepped on stage and started hosting it, and he was doing a really great job. And so I got some pictures of him. Yep.
Okay. And that's the last picture you sent me.
Yes. So this is Richard Stewart. And again, the thing that I like to do is really capture those moments, that you don't normally get by watching from your couch at home. And this was one of the things that Richard was doing, which was a kind of not a build off, but he was teaching people how to build terrestrial enclosures for their tarantulas. And it was really just this close-up thing. Everyone was, around a table and building an enclosure, and it was really a great time. And I wanted to get as many pictures of that as I could, because this is one of those moments that you live, and they're really amazing.
Great. That's the last picture I have from you. I have a few from Mikey Ben. Let's see. That's you. That part of the show. This is that's his. I already gave this one that is that
Yes.
same guy, and this is his rescue
Mm-hmm.
photo rescue. But there was there one other one more? Oh, there was a couple of this ball python there, I think.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So these the rescue table had ball pythons that were there for adoption, and they actually succeeded in adopting out a couple of them. I think there was one left, and they were all really sweet. And it's amazing to see that, even at expos where people are like, we should buy things, there's still, sentimental people that think of these animals and rescue them.
All right. I'm just trying to read some of these comments, see what else,
Yes.
do you use a Lightroom?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Okay. And all right.
I
She remembers working with the
I think
dark
he's
room.
asking about the software Lightroom, Sean.
Oh, Lightroom. Oh, Lightroom. Okay,
Yes.
that's software. Okay. All right, that makes more
I
sense.
think Kiki's talking about a dark room, which is an actual room.
Actual thing from the past where you had to develop
Mm-hmm.
film. Oh,
Yep.
that's
We're thinking
ancient
of building one
time.
here at my house.
Really? Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. So I guess it isn't past time to have those.
Well, so that would mean you'd have to actually use film.
Mm-hmm.
That wow. So that's still available. I guess it is still available. Yeah.
It's becoming more available. It's like coming back as a trend recently.
It's kind of like records. Yeah. Okay.
Back to the future, I guess, huh? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, records. If people finally figured out that vinyl has something positive to it. All right. Oh, good golly, Eliza Ann, where do you buy film, Sears? Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So any other questions for Charles Bell?
Well, I would like to know where you'd like to go. It's like you have a number of very cool tools or facets to what you're doing. And so you've got your video podcast, you've got your photography, YouTube, Instagram. Where would you like to take all of this?
So that's actually a really good question. As someone who's young, this is more of a thing that I do on the side, but it's also very important to me, near and dear to my heart. Um, I've seen this trend of, well, it's not really a trend. It's always been, in every community, you have this group of people who are negative and stuff. And my goal is really to just not build a safe space for people to learn, but really to just, put a little bit more positivity in the hobby. And I want to take this to, a larger scale, and of course, have a bigger following, and just really dive into making the hobby a better place.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think you will do that through? I do a lot with social media, as
Yes.
far as helping people with social media and stuff, and it's kind of a hobby of mine. And so, what platforms are you interested in developing?
Well, I started with YouTube, and then I moved on to Instagram. And so far, Instagram has been really good for sharing my pictures. And also, you have reels that are very fun to make. I'd like to develop more on my YouTube side, because I'm slacking on that right now. So I'd like to make more YouTube content, long form content, which I am actually working on 2 videos right now. So that's really something I'd like to dive into more, definitely.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I really appreciate you being here, Charles.
Well, thank you
And
for having me.
I'm definitely going to give you send you an email about, or maybe talk after the show about getting on a podcast and setting that up.
For sure, I'd love
So
to.
we could do that. We could learn all the more about you. But we'll keep them guessing here. So,
Sounds good.
all right. Thanks very much for being here.
Well,
We'll
thank you for
everyone
having
have
me.
a good night. And thanks for talking about the Canadian Reptile Breeder Expo.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.